Detroit Lions fans, Detroit Den 313, back with another episode. Before we get going, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Do it for me, man, and my safety. I'm out here, Steve, back in the thick of it, back out here fighting for my life in Chicago, Illinois. Uh, yeah, I already know what you're gonna say. You're gonna try to say, listen, Steve is gonna try to tell you guys that I'm trying to move here and all of these things, right? Don't let him get you going. Don't let him get started. Don't feed into the nonsense. I'm here because my son has a 7-on-7 football tournament. I don't want to be here. I'd rather it be anywhere else. I was just here. So, Steve, don't even try that nonsense at all. But as I told you before we got on, man, funny stories today. We had to run into Dixon Sporting Goods and get a couple of things today. And when I got in there, Steve, this is what I ran into. This is what I ran into. Just sick to my stomach. Just there was a couple people wearing this nasty shit that I've been running into. I, I don't understand why you want to put any of this stuff on your skin. Creepy crawlies, hives. I had to take some Benadryl. It's been crazy, man. But Steve, what the heck are we getting into today?
First and foremost, Will, actions speak louder than words. All right, you've podcasted quite a few times from Chicago. I'm pretty sure it's the same hotel room. I mean, it might even be a house for all I know. It might be Will's spare house, or maybe he's got a timeshare in Chicago. Maybe he just loves it there so much that it's just the permanent vacation place for the Ford family. I don't know, but we are going to talk about some pretty significant news. We had to take a day off yesterday. You were traveling to Chicago. I'm just getting my ass whooped at work out here solo. Just riding, grinding out these times. But we're going to talk about some news. I don't know if a lot of other people in the Detroit Lions podcast community are talking about this, but I think it's very significant. The loss of Mike Martin, the head of scouting for the Detroit Lions. I'm going to bring it in right here, and you guys can see it from the Pride of Detroit. Shout out to you guys. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, Detroit Lions Director of Scouting Advancement Mike Martin is set to become the next general manager for Notre Dame. I'll leave that there. You guys can pause it, read that if you want to. First and foremost, don't know when college football started doing general managers. Don't know exactly what that means. Don't know if he's going to be like in charge of player like bringing in and scholarships. I don't know. I feel like Marcus Freeman out there did a pretty good job, but now he's stealing our people in our front office, and I think that this is just a bad time to be losing your advanced scouting department leader. So how do you feel about this, Will?
I'm worried about it, man. I'm worried about it because this is a dude that's been there the whole Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell era, the whole time. And this is someone that Brad Holmes has talked about on numerous occasions about him and his staff and how much they are involved in the process of bringing in these draft classes. So when we're talking about these home run draft classes that we've had, the ones where you're getting Malcolm Rodriguez in the 87th round and he's coming out and being an impact player, right? The ones where you're taking running backs early, right? When you shouldn't take running backs and they're coming out and being the number one running back in the league, number two, if you believe that Saquon is number one, but number one, number two, whatever. Number three, if you're crazy and you're still on that Christian McCaffrey train, even though he plays like 1 or 2 games a season. I don't know, man. It worries me for those reasons. Brad Holmes is only one man. Whether you believe he's a genius or not, he can't do all of this stuff by himself. He's got a staff of people, I truly believe, that bring him guys that are worthy of Brad Holmes even looking at. So there's a lot of stuff going on before he even has to look at a guy. This is a guy who is probably looking at the thing through the exact same lenses as him. When you're with somebody for this amount of time, you start to get a feel for him. It reminds me of what Aaron Glenn said about Alex Anzalone. He said, Alex Anzalone knows the calls or the checks that I want to make before the words are even leaving my mouth. We've been together so long now. He just understands me. He gets me. We've talked so much. We've been around each other so much. I think Mike Martin is that type of guy for Brad Holmes. Him leaving the building, especially the timing of it, during a time where in a few months here, we're going to be looking at the NFL draft, drafting the players for one of the most important to me drafts that we have, a draft that can either put us in the Super Bowl or push us back further away from the Super Bowl. And it's not even like the numbers are there yet. It's not like the analytics could be there already because we haven't did the combine. We have no times. We have no measurables. We have nothing, man. So I don't know, man, Steve. It worries me. Am I freaking out? I'm not, because in Brad and Dan I trust. I think they're going to promote or go find the right guy to replace him. But if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. I wish it was something that we didn't have to fix. Steve, scale of 1 to 10, what is your concern level?
Probably like a 3, maybe a 4. I'm not overly concerned. Listen,
Oh,
only because Brad Holmes had that same exact title out in LA, so he's just going to have to pull some double duties for a little bit. It's a short fix. Couple months away, he's just going to have to do his job as a GM going into free agency, taking care of that aspect. Or maybe he really trusts his assistant GM and he gives him a little bit more responsibility to go out there and come up with some numbers for some contracts for some guys like Sweat and some other people we've talked about while he dives a little bit more into the scouting department. So I mean, in the thick of it, I'm with you 100%. This is a very important draft. Combine's coming up here in I think less than a month. The draft is a month after that, roughly. This is a bad time to be losing your advanced scouting department manager or whatever you want to call him. It's a bad time. The only good thing is, like I told you on the phone, we don't have to see Mike Martin as a competition. Like he's going to the college ranks. So it's not like we're going to be facing off against him like, the Detroit Lions and Ben Johnson, but we are losing something. And I am a little worried, but with Brad Holmes and his background, that's exactly where he thrives. That's where he made his money. That's how he became a GM, is from scouting. So I think he's going to have to probably rely on his assistant GM, and I don't even know who that is off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up, but probably just say, hey man, you want to be a GM in the NFL? Go do your homework. Go bring me some players to sign. I'll look it over before we finalize it. I'm going to be busy doing some scouting. I got this. I think this draft is more important than free agency, honestly. But we can sprinkle in some pieces in free agency that'll kind of leave us some clues to where Brad Holmes might be thinking. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But my level's probably about a 3 or 4. What are you sitting at?
7.
7. The world's coming down.
No, 10's the world coming down, but 7 is like, I don't like it. And I think there's going to be a stress level that's elevated due to this change. Just because either Brad Holmes is going to have to take on more work, or it's just a distraction at a minimum. It's a distraction because you got to get the next guy in and up to speed. He's got to be doing something new. He's got to get trained. He's got to look at the stuff. Even if it was somebody that they were just promoting, he's got to step into that new role, hire a person for his or her role. You know what I mean? That they were doing, even if it's a promotion. So, and if it's not a promotion, we got to go through the interview process and all that. When really, right now, we should be looking at prospects. And when I look at football, man, scheme matters, coaches matter, without a doubt. But it's the Jimmy and the Joes, man. It's the players. And this is a situation to where we got to be making sure that we're getting the right Jimmy and Joes. We got to make sure we're getting the right players into the Detroit Lions. Again, this is an influential draft. I look at it, and I told you there's 5 people that I want to get. 5, right? So if we get the wrong 5, man, we could be, instead of getting pushed over the hump, we could be getting pushed further away, which scares me, man. So I don't know, man. I'm just worried. Is it the end of the world? No, not at all. But a solid 7 for me, because I think that's a very important position. And I think it's somebody that you would look at kind of like, and this might be a poor analogy, but I think of somebody like Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater came in his first year, and people were like, man, why are we bringing in Teddy Bridgewater? We already got Hendon Hooker, man. We already got Jared Goff. Why are we signing him? He was just coaching high school football, only to see all of these articles coming out about all of the things that he did for J-Mo. You know what I'm saying? All of the mentoring did, how important he was at practice. So sometimes, man, we don't understand the gravity of small moves. And I think this is one of those small moves could be a big deal. I don't know. Hopefully we get it right. I got faith that we will. It just doesn't make me any less uncomfortable.
I'm gonna tell you this: I'd hate to see Will Ford when he loses his car keys. Well, a 7, because I'm thinking, hey, sometimes that spare key will start the car and it'll get you to point A from point A to point B. That's how the GM and the assistant GM have to be. All right. Sometimes it's just going to take a little change of roles. I got to calm you down a little bit. I've never seen you at a 7.
Yeah, it's just, man, I'm telling you, man, the Jimmys and the Joes, man, are it, man. I just look at it like, what if we got, instead of getting Brian Branch, man, what if we got somebody that was a bust? You know what I mean? Instead of
like a Broderick Martin.
You know what I mean? But it's okay. You can miss in the 4th round. You can't be missing in round 1 and 2, though. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. It's just one of those things. And then what's the philosophy? Whether even though we're all on the same page, we got great guys. I'm sure Brad Holmes is giving them a list of things or attributes that fit the Detroit Lions, but you always got your little sprinkle that you want to put on as a new guy coming in. No different than the Chicago Bears coach being our OC to Johnny Morton taking over as the OC. And even though he's been here in 2022 and he was a very influential person, he's going to put his own sprinkle on it, like throwing that deep ball, guys. If you haven't seen that, he likes to take shots, and we got J-Mo. That excites me. But he's going to put his own sprinkle on this offense, man, even though he fits the mold of a guy that's going to continue the standard and fit into the structure. So that's what worries me. We get a new guy in, and what if he's got his own sprinkle that he wants to put on things, and he starts to get Brad's ear, and he's like, hey, man, we need super strong dudes. F those athletes, man. We're going to change the game or whatever. So I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. I'm just concerned. If I was a betting man, I'm not a betting man. Would I bet that it was going to go bad? I wouldn't. When I say concerned, I'm not. I'm not betting that it's going to be bad. I just don't like it, I guess is what I should say. I wish that it wasn't happening. I wish that everything was staying like it was. The only thing that I'm pretty excited about, and I'll say it here in Chicago, is that the Chicago Bears head coach is no longer with the Detroit Lions, because if that's how he wanted to do his business, then so be it. But other than that, I wish we had our same coaches. I wish things weren't changing. I wish this regime could ride off into the sunset for 20, 30 years and keep doing their thing, man. But I get it. I'm not panicking. It's part of having a great staff. Watch the New England Patriots go through it. They got their coaches picked that. They got their GMs picked that. It's a part of being a good football team. It is what it is.
I think that on this Detroit Lions team, there's 100 guys who know how to watch film and know what they're looking for from the college prospects. So I'm not worried about the scouting overly. Like I'm not worried about that. And then the second thing is, I say this every year. I like watching the combine. It's fun. It's entertaining. It gives me and you a little bit more information to talk about when we're going over some of these prospects, like their 40 times, their vertical, the shuffles, the 10-yard split. That gives us more information. But the information we don't get is what goes on in those rooms where they're interviewing these players. That's when you're really finding out stuff. So I don't know if Mike Martin was one of those guys in the room. I'd have to imagine odds are probably he was, because I've seen Hard Knocks. I know that when they brought in Sam Laporta, there's about 20 people in there. I would imagine that Mike Martin was probably one of them, but I'd say that I trust the other 19 guys that were in the room to make the right pick. So I think that's another reason why I'm calm is Brad Holmes has a background in this. There's plenty of other people who can step up. Everyone knows how to watch film. Everyone knows what kind of culture we're trying to build here. I think we're going to be okay.
There's the last thing that I'll speak to. It kind of speaks to exactly what you just said. Here's the true reason why it worries me. And you mentioned this, bending Brad's ear, man, or having Brad's ear. There's so many people that have either sent comments on our shows or reached out on Twitter or Facebook and said, man, I didn't know about this guy, or I didn't even like this guy until you guys did a cut up and talked about them. And then next thing you know, I'm all excited. One that sticks out in my mind is Edrin Cooper. Nobody was hype about Edrin Cooper. No other podcast was talking about Edrin Cooper that I saw. We did a show on Edrin Cooper and why he would fit with the Detroit Lions. And people started, oh man, Edrin Cooper's a dog. He's this, he's that, or whatever. So if I'm Mike Martin, if I had that type of influence in that room to be able to say, hey, Brian, man, found this dude. I'm super excited. Yada, 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 yada. That's what I mean by sprinkle. The next guy's sprinkle might be something different. And when he sits in there with Brad, he might be saying, hey, yada, 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 yada about this dude. And if it's a different outlook than what we've had, I just hope that is something that adds value and not takes value away. Because at a minimum, and this is just coming as a coach, man, sometimes you got other coaches on staff that want to say, hey, coach, man, this blitz package will be this and it'll be that. And at a minimum, even if you're not going to go with it, you have to do the due diligence to look at what they're asking you to look at, break it down. And then if you're me, I'm going to either try it or I'm going to tell you why it won't work, right? But all that takes time away from me just looking at what I want to do defensively from a scheme standpoint that week anyways. So it's still a distraction. So even if Brad gets somebody new in, and sometimes, Steve, when you got to talk me off to the ledge, instead of getting ready for the next prospect you want to talk about, you got to talk me off the ledge on this guy that I want to go get and trade the farm and do all of this stuff. Or it's
Boy, ain't that the fucking truth?
what? It's just a distraction. So that's what worries me, man. I hope that we're getting somebody that's on the exact same page and we can just keep this thing rolling smoothly and seamlessly. It worries me the timing of it and how close we are to combines and drafts. But at the end of the day, we're going to be okay because we still got Dan Campbell. We still got Brad Holmes. And we still got Sheila. So Sheila him forward, man. So we're going to be just fine. But I'm not going to get on here and lie. There's a level of discomfort here. Just get me to the draft.
I'm more worried about your traffic coming home than I am about losing Mike Martin, because I'm telling you now, those people in Chicago don't know how to drive, and you never know who's carrying the gun. So just keep your head on a swivel out there, Will. Anything else for tonight?
That's it, man. Just excited, man. Excited. We got more prospects coming up. Again, if there's prospects that you want us to talk about, drop it in the comments. We'll talk about it. We got a list of guys going that we want to talk about, and we got an additional list of guys that you guys have reached out and put in the comments that you want us to talk about as well. So we plan to talk about as many as we can. So keep it coming, man. If there's guys that you want to hear us talk about.
Yeah. Also, try to. It's hard. I know not everyone can watch every single episode, but try to keep track of who we're talking about, because I see a lot of people asking us to talk about someone we've already mentioned. It just kind of gets a little old. So, I mean, I know we got our diehards out there, and I know we got people who can't tune in every night at around 8:30, but that's when our shows come out. So if you think we might've talked about them, just check out some of our most recent episodes, see if it's out there, or I'll tell you, hey, we already talked about that. Check it out.
They're on the thumbnail.
Yeah, they're on the thumbnail. Pretty easy to make. Pretty easy to see. So stick around, hit that like button. We'll be back later with another show.
Peace.